What's up guys, I'm Josh and I lift things, and I'm here to talk about the lower chest, the Bigfoot of the fitness industry. Too long didn't watch, there kind of isn't a lower chest, so you should probably spend your time focusing on other things. This video is going to go kind of in depth, so if you're not really into this stuff, feel free to watch a different video of mine. First, let me explain some basic anatomy. Now, most people would say that you have an upper chest, a middle chest, and a lower chest. But as far as actual structure goes, you have an upper chest, and then you have the rest of your chest. Some people even go as far as to say that you have an inner chest or an outer chest, but that's even more unfounded. Your chest actually has two different muscles, the pectoralis major and the pectoralis minor. The pec minor is really only involved with moving your scapula and aiding in respiration, so we're not even going to be touching on that. The pectoralis major, on the other hand, is what everyone thinks of when you think of your chest, or pecs. It has two specific heads, the clavicular head, which is what everyone would refer to as your upper chest, and the sternocostal head, or the rest of your chest. The clavicular head attaches to your clavicle, hence upper chest, and the sternocostal attaches to your sternum. Both the clavicular head and the sternocostal both have different originations. An origination is where a muscle attaches to something that doesn't move during a contraction. They both have different innervations, or nerves that control each head. They also have very different arterial supplies, or the way blood reaches them. This very clearly shows a separation between the upper head and the rest of your chest. The lower chest does not have any of this. But to be even more exact, the pec actually has three different named fibers. They each got different names based on where they originate from and the direction in which they run. The upper chest has one of these kinds of fibers, while the rest of your chest has the other two. The lower chest specifically is referred to as the pars abdominalis, but again is strictly a part of the sternocostal head of your pec major. When discussing if a muscle or a portion of a muscle exists, people typically refer to heads. For instance, the bicep has two different heads, the long head and the short head, hence bicep. For those saying the pars abdominalis existence is proof of a lower chest, well, sure, but that's not really a great argument. For one, the lower anything exists. What about the lower bicep? The lower calf? Why stop our classifications there? What about the lower upper chest, in between the middle and the upper? What about the middle, upper, lower, sideways, backwards chest? To prove this point even further, we still aren't sure how many fiber directions the deltoid runs in. From this study here that will be linked in the description, the deltoid is commonly conceived as consisting of three parts: anterior, clavicular, lateral, middle, acromial, and posterior, spinal. This makes sense. The front delt, the side delt, the rear delt. However, mention is made of multiple internal tendon bands that point to greater segmentation. Fick even proposed 7 functional parts. Grey's Anatomy, not the show, mentions a triangular muscle with anterior, posterior, and middle fibers partitioned by the muscle fiber directions into multiple divisions with 4 intramuscular septae descending from the acromion to interdigit, with 3 ascending from the deltoid tuberosity. Other authors mention 1 anterior, 4 middle, and 1 posterior fibrous bands descending into the tendinous cones, or take functional EMG from 7 locations. So the best guess here is that the deltoid has anywhere from 3 to 7 different sections. Yet for training, we tend to focus on the main function of the deltoid as a whole, and this is covered by training the anterior, the lateral, and the posterior. So if you train your lower chest, why aren't you training your lower descending lateral running fibers of your deltoid? Because that is an absurd thing that no one should spend time focusing on. This gets even more confusing when you realize that the classifications of muscles, their nerves, their arterial supplies, and everything else is going to change depending on the textbook, the country, the study. It's all up in the air. Humans are confusing. So let's put aside the fact that it just isn't a muscle, and it's hardly a part of another muscle in the first place. Let's talk about the practicality of training it. So, what is the function of the pec major? Now, this is the article from Physiopedia, great website. I highly recommend checking it out if you have any questions about how a muscle works. But we can see here with the origin fixed, the pectoralis major adducts, medially rotates, and transversely adducts arm at the glenohumeral joint. So to show this, adduction would be this. Medial rotation would be this. Transverse adduction would be this. It assists in flexion of the arm via its clavicular head. What is arm flexion? This. I just hit my hand on my desk, fucking ow. Blood, sweat, and tears for these videos. Like and subscribe. It assists in flexion of the arm via the sternocostal head. This. It depresses the shoulder girdle at acromioclavicular and sternoclavicular joints, or this. And with the insertion fixed, it may assist in elevating thorax as enforced inspiration. It is considered an accessory muscle of inspiration. So let's think about this in the way that we train chest. For adduction, that's going to be very similar to a type of dip. For medial rotation, that will take place in mostly any bench press. For transverse adduction, that'll take place in any type of press or fly or crossover where your body's hands are moving to the midline. For flexion of the arm, think about any type of anterior deltoid movement. And for extension of the arm, consider something like a dumbbell pullover. Now, this should give you a pretty good idea on how to train your chest. Whether that's some type of press or dip, whether that is some type of fly with cables or dumbbells, or any mix in between. But what about these emphasizes the infamous lower chest? Now, this study here showed the EMG data of 5 different press inclinations and to see how your muscles responded. Now, EMG data is not the end-all be-all and has tons of different types of errors, but it's useful to know a baseline of how useful an exercise is. So, at a 0-degree incline or a flat bench press, we can see here that all of these things are very similar. So what we have here is the pectoralis major upper portion. The red is going to be the lower portion. The green is the middle portion. The AD is your anterior deltoid, or this purple. And then the light blue is going to be your triceps. So what do we see? Obviously, as the inclination increases, your tricep activation remains about the same. This makes sense. The triceps' main function is going to be the extension of the elbow. No matter what type of press you're doing, you're going to be doing a lot of that. Now, as inclination raises way up to over 60 degrees, we see the anterior deltoid taking way over. Again, this makes sense. It is kind of suspicious that it's higher at 45 and lower at 60. Again, this just comes with the shortcomings of EMG data. Now, if we look here, as we raise an inclination, the upper chest is much more activated at 30 degrees than even so at 45 or 60 degrees. This isn't as surprising, but when we look at the middle chest and the lower chest, we can see that they drop off pretty linearly, meaning as the main portion of your pec decreases, the lower chest seems to decrease at pretty much the same rate, bottoming out at the exact same point. Now, this makes complete sense. If part of a muscle contracts, the entire thing will contract. But we have a bit of an issue here. EMGs only measure the active motor units firing at any given time. When you're doing an incline press, your strength in that position is obviously going to be lessened. Who here can press more incline than flat? Probably none of you. So when you're using less weight, it would make complete sense that the total motor units recruited go down. Now, from this study here, the effects of bench press variations in competitive athletes on muscle activity and performance, they just wanted to compare different bench pressing styles. Now, this doesn't have a lot to do with the lower chest, but I'm just trying to prove a point that EMG data may not be the end-all be-all when it comes to exercise selection. So here they wanted to test a competition style bench, which is flat bench, wide grip, and they compared it with the medium and narrow grip widths on flat bench, inclined and declined bench positions with a wide grip. They took 12 bench press athletes, meaning power lifters, and they tested a lot of things: the pec major, anterior and posterior delts, the biceps and the triceps, and the lats. Non-significant differences in activation were observed between the 3 bench positions, with the exception of 58 to 62% lower tricep activation, but 48 to 68% greater biceps activation in the inclined bench compared with flat and declined position. So they're saying that you had over half the activation missing on your triceps in an incline press. When we compare that with this study, that does not at all seem to be the case. And again, it would make sense that it wouldn't be the case, other than the idea of less weight on incline means less total motor unit recruitment. Comparing the 3 grip widths, non-significant differences in activations were observed, with the exception of 25 to 30% lower EMG activity in the triceps using a narrow grip compared to medium and wide grip. This study is directly saying that close grip benching does not better emphasize your triceps. This has been a very hot topic for a long time, and this seems to be following where the research is going. So I don't have a problem with that. I'm just trying to show that conventional thoughts or what you may assume to be sound logic doesn't always apply to basic anatomy. Here they say that the loads were greater using a medium and wide grip compared to the narrow grip. Again, makes much more sense and could be a reason why tricep activation seemed lower. And 18 to 21% lower in the inclined bench position compared with flat and decline. Comparing the EMG activity during the competition bench press style with either the inclined and declined bench position, wide grip, or using a narrow and medium grip flat bench only resulted in different EMG activity in the biceps and triceps. Already, we're starting to have some contradictions. From this study, the effect of 12 variations of the bench press exercise on the EMG activity of the 3 heads of the pectoralis major. 3 heads? So this study is referencing what they call the abdominal head of the pectoralis major, and it shows significant increases in the decline position. Now, once again, in the decline, most people can bench more than they could on flat or incline. So could this higher activation just be from more total motor units being recruited? there's potential for it. But this abdominal head is very rarely referenced in the literature, at least the stuff that I've seen, especially more current stuff. But again, this could be a language barrier or a country issue. But here's something interesting. Not all humans are the same. For instance, the sternalis muscle is an anatomical variation that lies in front of the sternal end of the pec major, parallel to the margin of the sternum. So right here, an inner chest muscle. But it says right here, the sternalis muscle may be a variation of the pec major or the rectus abdominis. So we're not even sure if it's an ab muscle or a chest muscle. But here's the real kicker. Cadaver studies show that the sternalis muscle has a mean prevalence of around 7.8% in the population, with the range from 0.5 to 23.5. It has a slightly higher incidence in females, though it was proposed that a possible reason for the high prevalence may result from the existence of a small, ill-defined, or tendinous fibers, which could be misidentified as a muscle. So just like with the deltoid, we don't know what the fuck we're working with. Like, there's so many questions that are just up in the air. We really don't know. And besides this thing possibly not even existing, maybe being a tendon, maybe only existing in 0.5% of the population, a 2014 study says that there's 3 different morphologies. It could be single head and single belly, double-headed, multi-headed, double-bellied, multi-bellied, and I guess it's even been reported that there is a triple-bellied and double-headed sternalis. We just don't know. So it's pretty well accepted there are only 2 heads of the pec major, the clavicular and the sternocostal. Arbitrarily saying something being lower needs this different type of training doesn't really work. The data shows often higher activation in your lower chest when doing a decline position, but that could be completely skewed just from the fact that you can typically do more weight. So is it a thing? Probably not. Is it worth worrying about? Almost definitely not. Now someone's going to talk about Ronnie Coleman only doing incline, flat, and decline. Well, Ronnie Coleman also said he was 0.03% body fat, so take it with a grain of salt. So finally, I thought that we would take a look at some of the most influential and successful bodybuilders of all time to see if we can notice anything that looks similar to a lower pec. You know, these are the most shredded people that have ever existed, so if you're able to see anything, it'd be on them. Okay, so here we have a picture of C-Bum, obviously, at least for today's lifters, one of the most prolific bodybuilders of all time. And we can see here an absolute separation between the upper chest, the clavicular head, and the rest of the chest. You can see it cut across right there, and we don't see something similar for the lower chest. In this picture here, again, you can see an absolute separation there, followed by just the majority of the pec. Now let's look at the king here, Arnold. Again, absolute insane upper chest. That's what he was known for. His chest was just beyond everyone else's. And you can see an absolute separation with not much going on the lower end. From this picture here, again, massive separation with then just one total pec after that. Now here is my personal favorite bodybuilder of all time, Frank Zane. Once again, separation of the upper chest with not anything going on different at the lower. Now maybe this is just lighting, maybe it's just how humans are made. From this angle, it almost looks like there is something different going on here, but that very much just could be striations, again, lighting, it's kind of hard to say. And one of the best examples here, my second favorite bodybuilder of all time, Franco. Look at this absolute monster with crazy, insane separation between the upper chest and the lower chest here. He just looks fucking goosed. So guys, there we have it. Does the lower chest exist? We don't really know, but the majority of sources claim that it doesn't. Is it worth training or focusing directly? Again, probably not. It seems that there are much better ways to spend your time. Does any of this really matter? No, not at all. You see these arguments all the time, so I was happy to be able to do a little bit of deeper dive, both for myself in a selfish way, and hopefully it ended up being interesting to you along the way. So the next time someone says that they train lower chest, why don't you ask them why they don't train their middle, upper, lower, backwards, inside out, reverse, loop-de-loop, deltoid. And guys, that's the video. Thank you so much for watching. I know this was a long one, so if you made it this far, do me a favor, please leave a comment telling me what I forgot, why I'm an idiot. It's really helps out the channel and I respond to every single one of them. Make sure you like and subscribe. I post a new video every single Monday and Thursday. You can follow all of these socials and join the Discord. The links are in the description. I post exercise content twice a day, every single day. Anything else I got to plug will also be in the description, as well as all of these studies, so you can look at them yourself. Hopefully you enjoyed this as much as I did. And as always, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.